Hello, this is Ryan from NowGamer.
This is Paul.
And this is Beyond, which you've played and reviewed. So tell us a bit about Beyond, because you've also played Heavy Rain and Fahrenheit, haven't you?
Yeah.
So talk us through Beyond, what you liked, what you didn't like, and also how it compares to Heavy Rain. Because for me, I'm personally interested in what the differences are, if anything, so go for it.
Yeah, well, people who've played Heavy Rain and the previous game, Fahrenheit, won't be surprised in terms of the control scheme. It's similar in that there's not that much interactivity to it. So I know some people hate that, some people don't mind it.
So it's still mostly QTEs, right?
Yeah, it's basically QTE based, and they've in some instances they've stripped it back completely. So you're just Jodie will make, who's the main character, will make a movement. It'll go in slow motion, like you see in there, and you just have to follow the movement that she's making. Some of it's the same as before, where it'll come up with X and you have to mash X. That type of thing. So I mean, I personally don't mind that. I know some people hate it. So yeah, as I say, it's very story heavy as well as with their previous games. Unfortunately, it's also very badly written as with their previous games. Stock characters, cliche. It's full of cliches. That actually didn't bother me so much in the first half. I was kind of willing to embrace it for that. I mean, if you I think how much you enjoy this could depend on expectations. I mean, if you're coming to this expecting it to be what David Cage says it is, which is some kind of masterpiece, this
some kind of miracle game that will transform your life.
Yeah, exactly. It's not that. It's, if you want good storytelling, there's better games out there. But if you're kind of willing to embrace it as being a bit kind of a hokey supernatural genre fiction, which I was willing to do, then I think you can enjoy it. The problem is, as with Fahrenheit, one of their previous games, about halfway through he really tries to up the scale. Obviously I can't explain it without spoiling it.
Well, no spoilers, but do your best.
Yeah, so he basically tries to raise the stakes, up the scale, and it kind of loses focus on Jodie as a character, which despite all the bad writing, they have actually managed to create a likeable character, and the first half of the game feels like it's more about her. The problem, again, I don't want to spoil anything, but we know that she's got these powers that make it different. You've seen from the trailers.
I think it's safe to say that because of the trailers. Yeah,
so you get to see how that kind of affects how people treat her and things like that. She's a sympathetic character, and it feels like it's telling a story of her trying to get away from that and find out about herself. But then the second half's not about her at all, and in upping the scale and trying to make it kind of this big finale, it's actually incredibly tedious.
Okay, I mean, is it safe to say, because I played Fahrenheit and I enjoyed it up until the last hour where it just goes absolutely bullshit bonkers.
Yeah.
Is it safe to say then that the problems with the last hour of Fahrenheit, and if you haven't played Fahrenheit, just look it up online and that will do a far better job of explaining than I can. But I mean, would you say the last hour of Fahrenheit is kind of representative of the problems in this game in terms of how the writing, I guess, goes off the rails a bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's not the same as in, obviously this has got a supernatural bent from the very beginning. Yeah. So it's not as whereas in Fahrenheit it just kind of flipped and changed into something it wasn't before.
Out of nowhere, which is a big problem.
Yeah, so it's not that so much. It's just the same way that Fahrenheit lost its focus, this does as well in the second half. I mean, I feel like the first half I was thinking this was going to be the best game that they've made by far.
Yeah.
I do still like the game. I do still think there's stuff there for people who like Heavy Rain and like what David Cage does, even for all the flaws. But the second half does kind of mar it, and it's you feel like it could have been something more than it was.
How would you compare this to Heavy Rain then? Because I know David Cage has been keen to say it is a different game. It does things differently. So how does it differ? I suppose
the character switching is one of the main things. So you're obviously in control of Jodie a lot of the time walking around, and then you could switch to Aiden, who's this spectral entity who's around her, and basically you're solving puzzles by flipping between the two of them. You're using his abilities to move things, push things around, influence other people to solve puzzles. So that's, in that respect, that's a bit different, and it's good. That works well throughout the game, I think.
In terms of the gameplay as well, I mean, outside of the QTEs, what different gameplay elements are there? Without kind of going into spoiler territory, obviously.
Well, in that way, it's similar to Heavy Rain and Fahrenheit in that they don't mind sort of putting mundane things in their games, which I like.
Oh yeah,
I like the fact that they're willing to like intersperse these like big action sequences with just like cooking dinner or something like that. I really like that. So there are bits that, again, some people are going to hate where you're doing really mundane things. You see her in different points of her life because it's told non-chronologically, so you're dropping into times when she's a kid. So when she's a kid, you're not doing anything. Do you know what I mean? There's a bit where your mum goes to ask you to go and get something from the garage, so you go and get something from the garage. But you've also got these high action sequences. Again, there's little interactivity, but they look good, fights and so on. There's even kind of some stealth gameplay bits later on.
So now that set off my my alarm straight away, because stealth's never done well in games that aren't dedicated to stealth. So how does that work out?
Well, it's done, again, got the unique control system. It's not done, it is kind of going cover to cover as you would expect in a stealth game, but it's with their own control system, so it does feel different. What I have to say is I don't know if it's possible to fail it, because it's so easy that that's not a problem. So that's something that I know people can find annoying in stealth games, like instant fails. And so on.
Yeah, sure. What about I know at Gamescom they showed off, I guess, an action sequence where Jodie was this soldier in what looked like some sort of desert terrain, jumping around on cars and stuff. What actually is that? What role was that in the game? Is that a special gameplay bit, or? Because I know there were a lot of people who said, "Oh, look, he's trying to capture the Call of Duty audience," which is the standard cry after any scene like that. How does that fit in?
Yeah, well, I would say there's probably more action in this game than in the previous ones, so that's maybe a fair criticism. I don't know, but that's not. That shouldn't lead you to think that this is a really action-heavy game, because it's not until, and with the way the controls work, it can't be that. So yeah, there's these bits where she gets brought in by the CIA, so you're asked to do some missions for them, and you see that at different points of her life. But again, this is what I quite liked about it, because it's non-chronological. You do a big action bit or a stealth bit, and then it can cut to something earlier in her life, which is a lot more muted and toned down. Then it can switch back to that again. So in that way, it's quite nice. The non-chronological narrative works well in that way, stopping you getting bored of one thing or the other. Okay,
well, you gave it 7.5 for us. You've mentioned about the writing and the problems with that. Were there any other issues you had with the game?
As I say, I think if you're prepared to, there are things that people won't like, and if you're prepared to accept those things, like I say, the limited amount of interactivity, which isn't a problem for me, if you're prepared to accept that it's not the best told story, it's a bit cheesy, if you're prepared to accept that, that's fine. I think for me the only major issue is the way it loses its focus halfway through, and that's the big problem.
So you're now going to go back and get the other 22 endings?
Yeah, absolutely.
Alright, cheers Paul.
Thanks.